The most outdated idea today is this: go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and invest for the long term in the stock market. But think about it, why would you save money when they're printing trillions of dollars? The wealth gap between the top 1% and the rest of the world is enormous. It's not just about money. You need to step back and see the bigger picture. So what should you do? Inside each of us, there's a poor person, a middle-class person, and a rich person. That poor person still exists within me, and the middle-class part of me craves security, a steady paycheck. But then, there's also the rich person, and the difference is we aren't taught how to let that rich person thrive. Instead, we're taught to go to school, get a job, and chase that paycheck. But no one teaches us how to actually get rich. If you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you'll know my rich dad refused to pay me. He believed that a paycheck could be one of the most limiting things in your life. Why? Because the moment you rely on a paycheck, you've locked yourself into the employee mindset. So my rich dad never paid me, and it drove my poor dad, who was a government employee, crazy. He'd say, "You have to pay people. You have to pay people," but Rich Dad wasn't saying paychecks were inherently bad. He just didn't want to be a slave to money. As an entrepreneur, if one venture fails, I'll start another. I don't depend on a paycheck, and I don't need anyone to take care of me. If the government doesn't like me, I'll move to another country, because every country needs entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur isn't just about running a business. It's a mindset, a skill set with a completely different set of rules. Small businesses don't operate under the same rules as big corporations, and that's where the real difference lies. Entrepreneurship starts with a mindset, followed by a skill set and rules. And depending on whether you're an employee or running a small business, the rules, mindsets, and skill sets are all different. If I could offer one piece of advice to someone who's never been an entrepreneur but is thinking about taking that leap of faith, I'd tell them what happened to me. I remember my last paycheck vividly. It was both one of the best and worst days of my life. I was in Puerto Rico working for Xerox, and instead of a regular paycheck, I received a bonus check about $30,000. The only downside? It was taxable. I was thrilled, but at the same time, something about it felt wrong. Then a colleague named John came up to me. He looked at me and said, "You'll be back?" I asked him why, and he replied, "Because you're going to fail." I remember staring at him and, with a few choice words, told him, "You might have failed and come back, but I'm going to fail and I'll never come back." That's the difference in attitude. If you're thinking, well, if I fail, I'll just go back to my safety net, then that's exactly what you'll do. But when I failed, I had no safety net, no paycheck for years. And that's when I truly became an entrepreneur. I had nothing. And that's when you get hungrier, smarter, and tested. Without a paycheck, you discover your true character. Will you cheat and cut corners, or will you rise to the occasion and become a better person? That's the real benefit of being an entrepreneur. You find out who you really are when you're forced to rely on yourself. You need to keep the big picture in mind. Too many people get stuck worrying, what will happen to me? But when you see the big picture, you realize that with every bad situation, there's potential for something good. The key is to prepare for whatever comes next. If you think the next 20 years will look like the last 20 years, you're in for a shock. When you buy a carton of milk, you check the expiration date, right? But most people never check the expiration date on their thinking. They're stuck in old ways of doing things. For example, instead of getting out of debt, I got deeper into it. I just refinanced $300 million in debt, reducing my interest rate from 5% to 2.5%. That move made me a fortune. Every month, more money flows in because my cost of borrowing has dropped. While some financial experts are telling you to get out of debt, I'm telling you to learn how to use debt to your advantage. When I returned from Vietnam in January 1973, the first thing my rich dad told me was, go to school to learn how to invest in real estate. But it wasn't just about real estate, it was about learning how to use debt and taxes. Those two things, debt and taxes, are what make the rich richer. Meanwhile, they are the very things that keep the poor and middle class stuck. Take doctors and lawyers, for example. They may be earning more, but their take-home pay is shrinking, and most of them don't even understand why. My own doctor just told me I finally made $1 million. He was proud of that. But then I asked, how much did you pay in taxes? His answer, $750,000. So after taxes, he's left with only $400,000. Not bad, but when I make $1 million, I get to keep $1 million. Why? Because I don't make it by working for money. You see, when you work for money, you get taxed heavily. That's why the very first lesson in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the rich don't work for money. Instead, we create businesses as entrepreneurs and acquire real estate. I don't invest in the stock market because, as an entrepreneur, I have more control over how much I earn and how much I pay in taxes. Since I'm both an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, I pay zero taxes. Every time I make $1 million as an entrepreneur, I unlock wealth in 90 days with the wisdom of a 7,000-year-old wizard. The Wealth Wizard's secrets to be rich. Achieving wealth in 90 days helps you overcome limiting beliefs, reprogram your mind, and set clear goals. This transformative guide, packed with motivational stories and practical exercises, is your path to prosperity. Get it now for the promotional price, available only today. Click on the pinned comment link and start your journey to wealth now. I immediately invested in real estate, and thanks to leverage, I can turn that million into 4 million by borrowing from the bank. That's why I love banks, though they're screwing over everyone else. They work to my advantage. Now, when the government prints money, it's great for me as a debtor, but terrible for people who are saving or working for money. When they print more, savers and employees get crushed, but debtors get rich. Debt and taxes are the tools that make the rich richer and the poor poorer. The problem is that many people still operate with obsolete ideas, and those outdated ideas lead to obsolete results. They still believe in going to school, getting a job, working hard, saving money, buying a house, and investing for the long term. But the world changed in 1971 when President Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard. Since then, money became debt. People often ask, should we get rid of school? Then no. Education is more important than ever, but the current system is obsolete. Just look at Moore's Law, which states that information doubles every 18 months. That means everything you learn is obsolete within 18 months. You can't rely on an education from 50 years ago, or even 5 years ago, to stay relevant today. Today, banks are actually charging people to save money. They don't even want your money because there's too much of it circulating. That's why we're seeing bubbles in the stock market, and real estate people are dumping cash because cash is trash. Yet people still cling to the idea of a high-paying job as the solution. But the world has changed. And if you don't change with it, you're going to get left behind. The idea of getting out of debt is outdated. Instead, you should learn how to get into debt and use it to build wealth. But they'll never teach you that in school. Nor will they teach you about taxes. The reason the 1% keep getting richer while the 99% struggle is because when money is printed, two things happen: inflation and taxes. These crush the middle and lower classes. Many people think I'll start a business, make money, and get rich, but that's not what real entrepreneurs are doing. There are about 28 million small business owners in America, and out of those, 24 million are one-person businesses. They're not really entrepreneurs, they're self-employed. And self-employed people pay the highest taxes of all, but nobody tells them that. The biggest misconception about being self-employed is that it means you're free or in control, but in reality, you're still trading time for money. This isn't true entrepreneurship. True entrepreneurs focus on building systems. They create businesses that work without their constant involvement. They leverage other people's time, skills, and resources to generate wealth. A one-person business is not scalable, and without scale, your income will always be limited. Worse, you'll face the highest tax burden because you're operating under the same tax rules as employees. The self-employed often find themselves in a trap of hard work without ever escaping the rat race. They're the bookkeepers, the marketers, the product developers, and the sales team all rolled into one. But what's the point of working for yourself if you're just another employee in your own company? This is why understanding the difference between being self-employed and being a true entrepreneur is critical. A true entrepreneur seeks to step away from the daily grind by building businesses and investing in assets that generate passive income. That's why real entrepreneurs focus on creating value through leverage. They leverage other people's time, they leverage other people's money, and they leverage other people's expertise. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter, knowing how to grow something beyond just yourself. This is the key to scaling a business. By doing this, you not only free yourself from being a slave to the business, but you also start to benefit from tax advantages that come with being a business owner or investor. The ultimate goal is to achieve financial freedom, and you can't do that by being self-employed forever. Real entrepreneurs understand that wealth is built by owning assets, not by working harder in your own business. Whether it's through owning real estate, investing in other companies, or creating systems that run without you, the goal is to remove yourself from the equation so your money works for you, instead of you working for your money. Yes, they might have the entrepreneurial spirit, but what we're really talking about is understanding that there's no such thing as a bad economy. Sure, there's an external economy, but there's also your internal economy, and that's what you can control. The power comes from changing your internal mindset. For me, I don't worry whether the economy is good or bad because I'm going to be rich no matter what. But a poor person with a poor internal economy will always see the economy as bad because they don't know how to make money in any condition. A middle-class person? They're focused on having a nice house, a steady paycheck, and a job. If you take that job away, to them, it's a disaster. But for an entrepreneur who doesn't rely on a job, it's no big deal. Entrepreneurs don't rely on the external economy, they create their own opportunities, regardless of external conditions. When the economy shifts, they adjust, adapt, and often find ways to capitalize on change. This mindset is what separates entrepreneurs from everyone else. Where the average person sees obstacles, the entrepreneur sees opportunities. A recession might terrify someone with a steady job, but for an entrepreneur, it can be the perfect time to acquire assets at lower prices, start new ventures, or capitalize on market disruptions. The difference lies in how you view risk. For someone who depends on a paycheck, losing that income can feel like the end of the world. But for an entrepreneur who thrives on creating value and leveraging opportunities, risk is part of the game. They understand that the bigger the risk, the greater the potential for reward. So while a poor or middle-class mindset is focused on security, an entrepreneurial mindset is focused on growth and possibilities, no matter the economic climate. This is what Bucky Fuller taught me: there are always two sides to everything. If you think the economy is bad, it's probably because your economy is bad. If you value steady employment, you'll focus on an economy without jobs. There's a difference between your economy and the external economy. One is what you can control, the other you can't. Real entrepreneurs have an internal focus. If they fall down, they see it as a chance to get back up and rise higher. On the other hand, the average person might fall down and reach for Prozac, thinking mistakes don't matter. The truth is, mistakes do matter, but not in the way most people think. For an entrepreneur, mistakes are learning experiences, valuable feedback that tells you what doesn't work and how to improve. Instead of being afraid of failure, real entrepreneurs embrace it because they understand that every failure is a stepping stone to success. The key difference is mindset. While the average person might be devastated by failure, an entrepreneur uses it as a fuel to grow stronger, smarter, and more resilient. This internal focus is what empowers entrepreneurs to keep moving forward, regardless of external circumstances. They don't wait for the economy to improve or for the government to solve their problems. They create their own solutions. This mindset allows them to thrive in any environment because they know that real change starts from within. By focusing on what they can control, their actions, mindset, and skills, entrepreneurs position themselves to rise above any challenge, no matter how big or small. Mistakes do matter. They show you didn't know something. But real entrepreneurs learn from those mistakes, get back up, and use the experience to become stronger, smarter, and better. Every challenge they face only makes them rise higher. People with a weak internal mindset, on the other hand, are afraid of what might happen, and that fear often leads to those very things happening. For example, people afraid of losing their jobs often end up losing them. So in the end, everything comes down to you. The first job of an entrepreneur is to control what's inside, not focus on what's outside. The moment you take a paycheck, you become an employee. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be stronger than that. It's about controlling your internal economy. Did you learn something? Did this video make a difference in your life? Then comment below. I am open to prosperity and watch your life change in a matter of days. I guarantee that if you learn something from my videos, your life will change and you will be the first millionaire in your family. Also, click on one of the videos that appeared on your screen now to continue evolving and get closer to financial abundance.